This is Hotwired. It was the first commercial magazine to be hosted on the internet. It was run by the print magazine company at the time, Wired. The first official release of Hotwired was on October 27th, 1994, and it lasted until 1999. This was also where the first banner ad was hosted. It was a simple ad from AT&T, which talked about future technology within their You Will campaign and how AT&T would bring this future tech to the population. The tech included smartwatches, personal AI assistants, and video on demand, and much more. While AT&T weren't the ones bringing these technologies to the world, they certainly knew it was possible and they wanted it to exist for the benefit of the people. But one large thing separates most early advertisements at the time from most ads nowadays. Ads back then weren't really personalized.
Now to a disturbing story out of Georgia. 9 young people are behind bars charged with murder after a massive street fight that was caught on cell phone video. Police are investigating what sparked the brawl in a small town near Augusta, Georgia that left a teenager dead. A warning to our viewers, these images are disturbing. CBS 4's Walter McCullough has more.
Despite data collection existing during the early era of the internet, it wasn't until around the mid-2000s where large corporations such as Facebook and Google began uncovering what's now known as big data, which is large amounts of data which traditional computers weren't able to handle. New technologies had to be developed in order to process the sheer amount of data being thrown at them. The large amounts of data the new tech was interpreting and analyzing were being sold or shared with companies to make advertisements more personalized to the user, to sell products easier. However, it became apparent the data wasn't just used for ads. They had another use for the ludicrous amount of data companies were piling in their warehouse. That was engagement. Hate and anger are strong emotions, and generally, humans are more likely to engage with negative emotions rather than positive ones. An article on Very Well Mind talked about research done on how humans tend to respond stronger to negativity than to equally positive ones. The article also states how humans are more likely to believe in negative news rather than positive ones, whether the actual material is real or not. In George Orwell's fictional novel, 1984, readers are introduced early on to a statewide event of hate against a particular character, Emmanuel Goldstein. The population is pushed into a large hall where a telescreen shows an image of Goldstein, and the population is encouraged to release all their hate against him. Writing the book, George Orwell understood how humans were drawn to hate and how they can be manipulated by it, and so did large corporations such as Google and Facebook. In hopes for profit, these large companies capitalize on the division of the people and the hate on the internet. They used it to keep people on the platform, showering their feeds with posts most likely to anger them based on the information gathered about the users. Furthermore, companies will even go as far as to create false outrage for people to sink into for profit. In all essence, they knew what they were doing, and they knew they were manipulating and tearing apart people and pushing everyone into polarizing groups, but they didn't care. After all, they're not there purely to bring people together. They were also there for profit. Companies using hate to fuel their greed is harmful to the consumers. The largest issue is the separation of people. The constant negative posts being promoted all over the internet creates an unbelievable amount of division. And while division between people has always existed, the internet, more specifically social media, has led to a constant back and forth negativity between polarizing groups and gave a platform to encourage more and more hate. Another issue is companies will continue to collect more data and further use it against the people. Not only is the ability for people to unite and put differences aside on the line, so is privacy. For example, Google shares data with ad companies and they can bid on ad space with it. The information can include browsing history, website cookies, and even geolocation. I think these issues should be acknowledged because of how important not only privacy is, but our ability to, as a species, live and prosper together instead of tearing apart one another. Is there a way to end this? Is there a way to somehow force these large companies to completely change their ways? I'm afraid not. At least, not realistically. The internet is vast and it's decentralized. An internet-related law set in place somewhere across the border only applies to that specific country. Corporations don't really care about the public eye enough to change. There isn't a realistic way to counter the use of hate for profit unless every single country opts in to set down stricter rules or the corporations somehow care enough to change. However, we can learn to avoid similar future issues and reunite as a population. We can learn there's no real need to be as violently polarizing as what's promoted on social media. We don't need to hate in order to reach a goal. We don't need to give in and support the companies who are against the populations and are only there for profit. And we certainly don't need more hate than love. The current state of the internet makes me fear a dystopian world shown in 1984 will become real. Or at least parts of the world, such as a lack of privacy and a world fueled mostly by hate. But in the end, we aren't realistically able to control, change, or make companies be held accountable for their actions. And I don't suspect companies will change in the near or far future even. Frankly, I feel companies will continue to use their power, data, and knowledge to further benefit themselves, but at the cost of hate.
We shouldn't sugarcoat the consequences. This is surveillance. And these stockpiles of personal data serve only to enrich the companies that collect them. This should make us very uncomfortable. It should unsettle us. And it illustrates the importance of our shared work and the challenges still ahead of us.